With the release of Counter-Strike 2, I have a newfound hope for another game in the Team Fortress series. It's just a little tiny drop of hope, but it's still there. Like many things I won't be able to own for another 30 years, I thought it would be fun to speculate what it will be like. So, in this video, I'll be going through a list of game features that I think will be improved and changed in Team Fortress 3, from graphics to gameplay and everything in between. Before I begin, you should note that all of this is purely speculation done by me, and if you have any questions or ideas of your own, you can leave those in the comments for me to read. If you end up liking what I say, why don't you like the video and subscribe? It's much appreciated. Anyways, let's begin. The first thing that is almost certainly going to change in TF3, aside from inevitable balancing changes and new weapons, is the graphics. The current TF2 runs on the original Source engine, while the latest Valve games like Half-Life Alyx and Counter-Strike 2 run on the Source 2 engine. It is easy to assume that Valve will develop TF3 on the Source 2 engine unless anything better than the Source 2 engine comes out, like a potential Source 3. The Source 2 engine itself is a modern engine that has some great capabilities and potential for TF3. Where I think this engine shines the most is in Half-Life Alyx, but if TF3 were to happen, it will be of the same quality and detail as something like Counter-Strike 2, and that's not a bad thing. If there's one thing that Counter-Strike 2 did right, it's the graphical upgrade, seeing as it's almost the only thing that's new in Counter-Strike 2. Due to what happened in Counter-Strike 2, new graphics for TF3 might be the only thing that will happen in TF3, but I don't think that's very likely. Fans of TF2 have been asking for new content for over 7 years, so I think Valve will definitely deliver on that. Speaking of new content, let's move into the delicate idea of adding classes to TF3. Both the original Team Fortress and its sequel Team Fortress 2 only feature the same 9 classes, so it's believable that Team Fortress 3 will also only have 9 classes. That, in my opinion, is the most likely outcome of class updates to TF3, but let's think about what else we could have. Some fans believe that the addition of one extra class to the game, such as the Civilian, sounds good, but to me that fails to take into account the complications that would happen with the balancing of attack, defense, and support roles. In the current state, the 3 types of roles each have 3 individual classes to choose from, but if there were to be a 10th class, this could throw off the balance of everything. The solution many people think of to this problem would be to add a new unique role for the 10th class, such as the commander role, but that sounds like it would create more problems to me. It's because of this that I believe in the less popular idea of adding 3 new classes in Team Fortress 3. One new class for attack, defense, and support would help keep things balanced and provide new gameplay for each of the 3 different roles. A problem that comes from this is that it would be highly unlikely that a standard casual match size of 12v12 would feature all 12 classes on at each time, but the solution would be to simply increase the standard casual match size to 16v16, which we already see in most community servers in TF2. Oh, and I'll talk about competitive mode later. So, what would the 3 new classes look like? Well, for attack, I could see the new class being, say, a nail gunner. The original concept for Scout in TF2 was for him to have a nail gun, as it was his primary in the original Team Fortress Classic, but I think that a new class could suit the nail gun with the right ideas. Let's say we tried to combine the automatic firepower of Heavy with the movement of a faster class. I think the exact stats are hard to say, but let's say they had about 150 to 175 health and the same movement speed as, say, Pyro. The nail gun itself would be automatic like Heavy's minigun or Sniper's SMG, but fire harder to aim syringe like nails. The damage should be something between the minigun and SMG, and the ideal range would be medium range. For the secondary, the nail gun could have a nail trap that they could place down. The trap would be on the floor and be relatively easy to spot, but would require explosives or blasts to get rid of, unlike demo stickies which are vulnerable to bullets. Once stepped on, the trap would give the bleed effect for an amount of time and slow down the enemy, giving the nail gunner and their teammates the chance to pick them off easier. Finally, the nail gunner's melee weapon would be a big screw. The big screw could be lodged into an enemy and will give a few seconds of sustained small damage, like 80 damage over 6 seconds. If you were to hit twice, the total damage would decrease per hit, but each hit would reset the time of sustained damage. For example, 1 hit is 80 damage, 2 hits is 120 damage, 3 hits is 150, 4 hits is 170, and 5 hits is 180. For hit 1, there is 80 damage over 6 seconds, but if you hit again at 3 seconds, there would be 120 more damage over 6 more seconds, on top of the original 40 damage that was already dealt in the previous 3 seconds. If the 6-second cooldown ends, the next hit will return to the original value of 80 damage on the first hit. The slow time to deal damage would be balanced by the higher overall damage in other melees, such as something like the shovel or the bat, and would grant the nail gunner the opportunity to move away from the enemy and fire the nail gun while the enemy is still taking sustained damage. If you have any ideas for how to balance the nail gunner idea, let me know. For a new defensive class, I think a shield class is a cool idea. The main idea of the shield class is to offer defensive protection by building, of course, shields or barricades. One shield would be large enough to plug a large part of the choke point, but would be useless in an open field, as the enemy could easily go around the shield. The shield would have a limited health to it and would offer no damage capability. The best use case for the shield would be to temporarily hold off the enemy on a choke point, for the medic to heal the team, or for an engineer to put up a sentry. Of course, being able to spam the shields would be overpowered and annoying to push through for the enemy team, so the shielder is limited limited to only 2 shields at a time. When both are down, they cannot put down more. They will only be able to put down more when the shields are destroyed, either by the enemy or via a destruction PDA. But there will be a cooldown that starts when the shield is destroyed before the shielder can put down another. For weapons on the shielder, they should be relatively weak to put focus more on their shields. For a primary, the shielder should have a miniature mobile shield similar to the medic's projectile shield from Man vs. Machine, but only like the level 1 version of that, and would have a much more limited use time. The secondary would be their main damage capability, being a souped up version of the default pistol. It would deal more damage and be more precise than the standard pistol, but would still suffer from a small clip and low power at close and far ranges. The melee of the shielder would be another highlight, a sort of Fallout-like power fist. The power fist can push enemies like air blast, but cannot reflect projectiles like air blast. It would deal good damage, something like 60 damage. The main use of the power fist would be to hold off the enemies, of course because this is the annoying fun-hating push-stuffing class. For health and speed on the shielder, I think a high health of about 200 to 250 would be ideal due to their role, and a high speed like that of a little less than Scout would help make up for their poor damage capabilities. I don't know if this guy sucks really, so again, give me suggestions in the comments. The final new class could be an anti-sniper class. Let's say a laser class. The class's primary would be a laser that gets more powerful the longer it travels, so a sniper across the map would get zapped harder than the Scout that was in the laser class's face. The laser projectile would be fast, but not hit scan fast. It would be enough to catch a sniper off before they can react to the incoming laser. This would make the class less annoying than sniper, as people who are paying attention would be able to avoid the laser, unlike sniper's instant hit scan rifle. The laser class's secondary would be a shotgun for close encounters. The melee weapon would be a basic melee weapon like a bat or shovel. To add more spice to the class however, they will also have a 4th item like spy engineer and the shielder, some sort of heat goggles. This might sound unholy, but the laser guy would be able to see enemies through walls, such as being able to spot a sniper around a corner. This would allow the laser guy to position themselves well and support their team by communicating enemy positions. While the normal goggles would only be able to spot other players, a variation could be able to spot any engineer buildings, demo man stickies, shielder shields, and nail gun traps, plus maybe also spot health sources if that's too weak. For the last time, leave your ideas in the comments. Moving on from adding new classes, let's talk about the 2 main modes of TF3, casual and competitive. Although casual has its own issues, it's easy to see why a competitive mode is the one that needs more fixing. However, let's first talk about improving casual in TF3. Casual should be the easiest mode to get into for a casual player of TF3, and it should be mostly focusing on fun. But for some people, casual just seems like a waste of time, as there is no reward for playing it. While any reward in the video game is worthless, casual's rewards in TF2 are extremely worthless. All you get for playing casual is more levels and a funny number increase on your main menu, and the badge that changes to show off to others. What you should get is level rewards, like weapon unlocks and cosmetics. I'll also get into more rewards for playing casual involving contracts later. Now, for competitive, of which I know little of, I believe that Valve should make it easier to get into. Competitive in TF2 is something that is viable, surprisingly even if the game's goofy design, but it's just really hard to get into. Moving on to the core game modes of TF3, such as Payload, let's see what improvements and new modes could be added. First of all, as I said earlier, I think that 16v16 should be the new standard size, and I don't think it will affect the balancing of the game too much either, seeing as it works rather fine in community servers. So, with every game mode now featuring 16v16, let's see what new ones could be added. The one that I believe would be the most likely new game mode, in the sense that it's not one of the original core game modes of TF2, is Versus X and Hail. I think that with enough time and its own space on the TF3 mode menu, Versus X and Hail could be a popular and loved game mode in TF3. Inevitably, it will not have a huge player base like Payload, but I do believe that if Valve gives it enough care, it will have consistent players and will offer a fun mode to play from time to time. On the other hand, the official game mode we've seen recently, Infected, I do not see coming as a mode in TF3, aside from being a Halloween seasonal thing, of course. Now, for ideas for new game modes, I think Valve can look to Counter-Strike. A mode of in TF2 that is like Counter-Strike's Terror mode would be funny, as it would imply too many things about the blue team. Another new mode could be, let's be honest, a Battle Royale mode. Now, I don't have a huge number of ideas, and besides the fact that it could take advantage of larger server sizes, I do not know if it could work. So, leave your ideas in the comments for Battle Royale mode. Now, while the core game modes like Payload, King of the Hill, and Control Points do not really need an update, there is another separate thing that does need one. Man vs. Machine, at least in my opinion, is one of the greatest PvE modes of any game. It's well designed and fun to experiment with, but it does have its problems. The biggest problem currently within TF2 is that there is really only one tour that's worth playing if you care about profit. I think that it'd be a good thing if Valve made more tours with their own good incentives and difficulties, and it would make things far less repetitive. However, something else that is currently repetitive in TF2 now is the existence of a meta of sorts. There is a correct way to play NVM, and while diverging from that does not guarantee a failure, I think Valve should make it easier to experiment with team layout and class weapon upgrades, and that's really a given. If there would be no definitive way to play Tier 3's NVM, that would be great. And if Valve were genuinely gods at design, team compositions like 6 spies or 6 scouts would be viable. Now, let's move on to another feature of gameplay that I wish would have improved and is there right now. That is contracts within TF2, like the Jungle Inferno pass ones or the seasonal Halloween contracts. The problem right now is that once you're done with the Jungle Inferno contracts, you're done with them. Scream Fortress contracts are also fun to do, and there are new ones every Halloween, but over many Scream Fortresses, they can become repetitive. The solution to both of these problems is to have a seasonally rotating set of contracts, and by seasonally, I mean every 3 months or so. Every season will bring with it new contracts and new rewards, but they will inevitably come at a price. This is a touchy subject, but I think there's 2 reasonable ways to do it. Either players would have to pay one large fee up front, like the Jungle Inferno contract pass, or pay every season a smaller amount. This does sound a bit like a war crime, but for free-to-play players, there could be a set of free contracts every season, or have the standard paid contracts accessible with less rewards. So, what I'm saying is that TF3 needs that Fortnite Battle Pass. Again, for the 100th time, give ideas in the comments. The last subject I would like to see improved in TF3 is the usability of interfaces within the game. First, I'd like to compliment the easy-to-use interfaces. The class pick interface, class loadout interface, backpack interface, contract interface, and game mode browser are good ones. And if they stayed largely the same, it would be good. The new ones that need changing are the community browser, friends menu, settings menu, and the custom game menu. It shouldn't be hard to change the community server browser, friends menu, and settings menus, as I think that the only thing they need is a visual update and an easier to use design. But the custom game menu is harder to do. First, in its current state, the custom game menu almost doesn't exist. It serves almost no function. I think that if TF3 had the option for players to make their own custom games and play them with friends, bots, or both, it would be a good thing. Time and time again, my friends have wished that we could hide from the nuclear waste of casual mode and just go against each other in 2v2s or play together on a team against some bots. But TF2 just doesn't have that feature. Instead, we have to search elsewhere to third-party server hosters that either suck or cost money that we don't have. A game that does feature this kind of mode is Counter-Strike 2. For me and the boys have played countless custom games. So, in short, if TF3 could have it so I could put together 6 friends in a party and host a custom game with us against 6 enemy bots, that would be a good improvement. If TF3 does happen, I think that it is inevitable that this will happen, seeing as we did see this functionality in the original CSGO back in like 2012. In conclusion, we can all have hopes and dreams for the future of our favorite games, but nothing is certain. For all we know, TF3 could just be a graphical update and have a return to regular updates, which could just be fine. So, drop your own hopes and dreams in the comments, and thanks for making it this far. Your reward for watching the whole video is absolutely nothing.